Assalamu alaikum. My name is Elorvek Boribayev and I am a student of International Center for Education in Islamic Finance. Today, in this video, as a student of accounting in Islamic finance, I would like to talk about the control mechanism in Islamic banks in Malaysia and Bahrain. In Islamic banks of both countries, Malaysia and Bahrain, the corresponding established process for reporting anyone suspected to be abusing power is adopted. All staff are accorded the opportunity to report via the whistleblowing mechanism with the assurance that the report will be dealt with confidentiality and that the reporter's identity will be protected. For example, Bank Islam in Malaysia ensures the highest standards of governance guided by whistleblowing policy. The bank adopts a policy of zero tolerance towards corruption and unethical behavior practice in its operations and services. Increasingly, it sees investing in technology to manage compliance monitoring. On the other hand, according to Central Bank of Bahrain, Islamic banks must establish a policy with regard to whistleblowing so as to encourage all employees to report promptly to an appropriate level of management any breach or suspected breach of business conduct principles. On the 1st September 2016, Central Bank of Bahrain issued a consultation paper titled Sharia Governance Module, in Chapter 5 of which it clearly stated Bahraini Islamic bank licensees must appoint an independent external auditor on annual basis. The external auditor must conduct an external Sharia compliance audit to be completed before the issuance of the annual Sharia Supervisory Report. The external Sharia audit report must be guided by the international standards on assurance engagements. In Malaysia, policy document and other laws do not explicitly specify the external Sharia audit position. Policy document on Sharia governance 2019 notes that the role of the internal audit should be independently minded, with the aim to provide an independent assessment and objective assurance. Part 4 of IFSA 2013 on Sharia requirements provides for the appointment of the person to conduct audit on Sharia compliance, but it's silent on external Sharia audit. This leaves the door open for BNM at its discretion to require an Islamic banks to appoint the external auditor, whom BNM approves to perform a Sharia audit when there are concerns about Sharia compliance. Whilst this is possible in theory, the provision can be read as something which is issued by way of exception rather than as the norm. The Central Bank of Bahrain Rulebook Volume 2 requires all banks to establish an independent Sharia board complying with MIFP's governance standards. This book provides with a clear legal requirement for the establishment of the Sharia board in Islamic banks in Bahrain, in which failure to do that will constitute non-compliance with the Central Bank's directive. Bahrain has established National Sharia Advisory Board of the Central Bank of Bahrain with purpose to serve and to verify the Sharia compliance. As regards to the Sharia governance system, Bahrain follows the MIFP's governance standards, where it requires all Islamic banks to establish Sharia Supervisory Board. Rulebook requires Islamic banks to adopt the standards as well as having a separate function of Sharia review for a purpose of ensuring Sharia compliance. To address this issue, the practice of the Islamic banks shows that Sharia review or audit is carried out by the existing internal audit personnel. The Malaysian Central Bank is the regulatory body that enforces two important acts, namely the Banking and Financial Institutions Act 1989 and the Islamic Financial Services Act 2013. Except above mentioned acts, BNM has Sharia Governance Policy Document 2019, which transparently shows the bank organs are accountable and to whom. For example, the responsibilities of the Board of Directors are oversee the implementation of SAC's rulings and internal control framework and oversee the performance of the senior management. The Board of Directors must also assess the performance of the Sharia Committee formally at least annually and ensure the remuneration reflects members' accountabilities. In its turn, the Sharia Committee shall be accountable for the quality, accuracy, and soundness in their decisions and advices. As expected, the Sharia Committee must have fully accountable and making decisions via robust deliberations of issues, including considerations of business practices. The idea is consistent with BNM's expectations that Sharia Committee must reach certain level of competency in advising the bank. BNM, it seems, is prepared to provide authority for Sharia Committee to decide the business directions in line with the overarching SAC's decisions. It indicates that Sharia Committees is meant to be influenced in the Islamic banking industry. However, in case if Islamic banks faces Sharia-related issues and problems, In its activities, Sharia Committee may approach the SAC for further clarifications on the instructions how to resolve faced issues. BNM also provides guidelines on the reporting process of Sharia non-compliant events in Operational Risk Integrated Online Network, ORION, policy document published by BNM in 2019. Control mechanisms play an important role in the life of any business organization, including Islamic banks, without which the life of the managers would be complicated. Control is required for achieving the goals in a proper manner because it provides the instruments which influence the performance. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.